I also sent Tui the link too. And hello and good moments to everybody. This is Dan Lutz, and I'm here with
Stefan Rowe, also known as Dank.
And we're
together.
Here
We are
Dank.
I can't help it. I just think it's funny to mess it up every time. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a little better. We like 2 or 3% better this time around. So, it's a spontaneous. We haven't scripted it. Yeah. Moving forward. Well, this is
obviously we haven't scripted
it. Dank Live number 147. So it might be 148, but because of that other one we slipped in the middle. But the first ones were not numbered this way. They were GCR, The Big Lie, and we had a little bit of a chat about that just before we came on the air. GCR still going strong, telling you it's tomorrow or today.
And by going strong, we mean it's doing absolutely nothing but lying to you and stalling your life.
And preparation for you to do absolutely nothing for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life can be dedicated to exactly what you're doing right now, pining for the GCR. Or we can all, go storm the Capitol or something, or not the Capitol, but go get somebody to do something. It's amazing.
Peacefully protest.
Yes. How do we? Yes, with an armed militia, we will peacefully protest. I love that.
Yeah.
I know that
doesn't mean we're going to use them.
Right. I know that this one guy on Twitter, Rambo something or other, he's going up to Portland to protest Antifa with basically, a few thousand people of an army, right? And and to protest, to make sure that if Antifa gets out of line, they will beat them senseless. Now, you want to know how poorly trained the pack of cowards at Antifa are? You wait till those guys go up there and it's on the news of them just beating them senseless every time they try to attack somebody, right? Because look at all the, I mean, think about it. This is like a liberal group. So they're not going to, if they had like a real fight out there, they would put that out to make them look like victims. But the things that come out are like, oh, here's a 5'7" Seoul Chinese journalist you start beating up. Here's a 68-year-old man that you're, helpless, that you're clubbing for no reason. Like what a, it's gonna be a war up there. I mean, honestly, it's a little scary. Like I hope they're not. I wish those guys luck, and I hope they don't get in any violent situation. I would love for them to just stand their ground, because those guys, the Antifa punks, are not worth getting arrested over. They're not worth, sullying or compromising your integrity for. They're not worth your violence or your anger. They are misguided. They are drugged up, just like so much of our population. Just be present, and that'll be enough. They won't get violent just because you're there. To anybody going up there.
Yeah.
So,
one milkshake thrown, and then what?
Oh, it's over. I mean, you listen, Antifa. Just as a public service announcement, if you think that a bunch of vets, trained men, really trained, like
experienced
trained in warcraft, right? They weren't down at like the beachfront by the river in Chicago taking a Zumba class and Zumba / kickboxing class and be like, we're training ourselves to fight. They're not like that. They're trained to kill. They know exactly what to do. They know how to defend themselves and others. And it will take 10 of you to take any one of them. I'm telling you, don't do it. Don't do it. It'll be a beatdown. It'll be a miracle if no one's killed in that. I mean, seriously. And I hope they're not. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I think, pretty much they could probably just lift them up by the scruff of their neck as they're just kicking and flailing, just set them aside.
Man, if you saw Rambo go off, I mean, because he uses some colorful language, and he definitely he was like, "You mother effers, I'll dox every one of you. I'm gonna get you." It was like watching like the WWF back in the day, like, "You're gonna regret every day that you ever talked against me. I'm gonna crush your family." It was like he went in. I was like, wow. I was like, that's good stuff.
It'll be interesting. I want to let you know what I covered on Frontlines was
yes.
The Blaze TV put out a special on Ilhan Omar and traced her marriage and her filing of taxes on a timeline, because you need to have a timeline and you need to put out pictures to represent things, because things get, who married who and when and everything. And it reminded me so much of Obama in this way, is that not about the Islamic side or anything like that, but just about causing confusion. That their main goal to attack the foundation of America on is to attack the stability, right, and to make things confused. Same things about confusing gender. It's also about confusing, people about race, color, the background, everything. Just make everything questionable. Are you married to 5 people, married to 2, married to 1, married to yourself? Anything is possible, right? I married myself, and I'm filing joint return.
It's very interesting when you think about it, right? Because one, like you and I both agree, like marriage shouldn't even be, a legal thing, right?
It shouldn't be under a government. It shouldn't be a civil arrangement.
Right. And so what I think is fascinating, right, is Ilhan Omar, you got to think, she is a plant for a long time. So she has been trained. So a lot of these things that they're going to bring to light, right, it's like they're going to have to bring attention to the right things. Like, for example, like if she married her husband in a religious ceremony. Well, then she legally married her brother, right? So there's a law against bigamy, but not against marrying your brother. I'm not sure, right? So it's just such a touchy area. It's like, so she
Bring
could
everybody.
technically say it's
Yeah.
not. Well, it's not true. That the ceremony was for something else, and you infidels don't understand, right?
Well, I'm sure she's a clown. I'm sure that that's what I titled the broadcast was Ilhan Omar C_A clown. And related to Obama also being a clown and Michelle Obama being a clown. All of them are CIA assets, right? And that they're just like everyone in the media gets their 4 a.m. talking points, and the whole system is been set up to keep us in this false reality that they create. Now they want to remove America, the ideas of patriotism. One of the QAnon posts actually today was pointing out that Google redefined patriot, right? And so they put up this was on Fox News also. So there was a Fox News graphic that showed a definition under Webster's dictionary and the definition under Google. And and so under Google, it's we're terrorists pretty much. It doesn't say terrorists, but extremist or things like that. I could probably bring it up, but and so they're just redefining words and making everything confused. I'm a patriot, right? But and I've always have been. So what is it's like being a nationalist, is a part of their definition. That is it like a Nazi, right? They're tying the word nationalist to Nazi, patriot to terrorist. This is their game, right? Is the people who are for their country, their culture. Those are the enemies of the deep state. And so that's why they're redefining these things.
Well, right. So if you're for your country, it means you're not for, making us all one world. So, I mean, it is the most transparent agenda in history, right?
Right.
You can't have. They've never in history, ever. None of the people who are currently trying to do this had world peace. Never. They've had world war, right? So as long as you pit everyone again, they know how to do that. They don't know how to have peace, right? They think that peace is not profitable, and as long as money is your standard by which you measure your success, then you'll never have world peace the way the way they want it, because they don't believe peace is valuable.
They want to use this cycle like an engine of creation destruction. So you create something, you destroy it, you make money. You create something, you destroy it, you make money because it has to be rebuilt. Why not keep building? Right? Just keep building.
Right.
Abundantly, moving forward, outwards into the solar system and then into the galaxy.
Exactly. Because then you wouldn't be able to control us. And if we were honest about it, everybody would realize that, wait, you can't, like, these are people that are magnificent. I got to tell you, let me break this down, because I feel like this summarizes it a little bit for me, right? So I told everybody yesterday that we were working with this group who claims to be, the top of everything, right? I mean, their emails are just fabulous, actually. They're like, you have reached the top of the world. You might have thought you were at the top before, but now you're at the tippy top. This is the tippy top of the world, right? It's like, it's just so outrageous the way they talk. They're like, we can reach into infinity and beyond. We make the world go round. Now, maybe I'm being slightly hyperbolic, but they actually did say they could reach into infinity and beyond, right? And I thought, well, maybe they're the watcher. I was really excited. And the individual who contacted me as part of the group who represents them was amazing. He was wonderful. He's still wonderful. We're going to work with him for a long time, and I'm going to make sure that his projects get funded. This is the kind of person we want. Now, we got Kim on the phone. We had all this stuff. We were talking about it. Now, they went back. They went right to work, right? And the gatekeeper, she immediately thought, first I would say either she lied or she just didn't know. And what she said was something to the effect of, "Oh, I've spoken to Kim." Right now, what people do, even at that level, you'd think, well, you guys are the most informed, right? You would go do real. They did some Google search, so there's a smear campaign on Kim right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they basically, said all stuff. So they basically like, well, was she this? Was she that? And so they said they were doing an investigation on her. Now, shut up. If you guys are at that level, you know exactly who Kim is. You're watching all these transactions. Who do you think's moving the money, right? Like, you know who she is. So that's a lie. So then after all that, they said, well, they told our guy to stand down, not to pursue it, because she's already working with them on that level. Well, this is when we find out that now, and I've heard this for 3 other occasions, that there's another, like a fake Kim that the Kingdom of Manna has produced, and which has no affiliation with the Manna World Holding Trust, and so the fake non-kingdom of Manna, because they're not a kingdom, all of the paperwork that made them a kingdom in the first place, all of the paperwork that made them a sovereign entity in the first place has been dissolved, and Kim has issued a cease and desist back in 2017, and as of right now she is working on another cease and desist that will be issued in public everywhere, and I'm sure Kim will send it everywhere, but we're going to get a copy and we'll make sure to put it up on the Speak Project and we'll talk about it, that they need to cease and desist because they are misrepresenting the Manna World Holding Trust. They're misrepresenting all of the real good that is possible, and by misrepresenting it, they're stalling the world. So this guy, Jesper, he's at the top running the biggest scam in history, telling everybody he's got 180 tribes that are registered, right? Now, they just think, hey, this is what's always been supposed to happen. They see Manna, like Tui said, and think they're good. Now, but in that email we saw they had registered 180 tribes. Now, the first question is, what did you register them as? To who? You have no power. You're not even real. You're not even a real kingdom. Your king is not a king because he doesn't have a domain that belongs to him. He's not a king of anything. That's the first thing. He's not sovereign. He has not been acknowledged as sovereign because he broke the treaty when he had the chance to be sovereign and betrayed Kim and set up a system to steal everything from the people. So now he's going around making promises about humanitarian projects. And today, or over the past 2 days, a lot of times these people will call me and they'll say, "Hey, could you tell us about the Kingdom of Manna?" Because they think it's the same as the Manna World Holding Trust. But these are two different. Well, one is an entity that exists and is real, which is the Manna World Holding Trust. The other one is a figment of their imagination because it does not matter. It's a bunch of people pretending to be connected to Kim. On one side, they have a woman, I guess, who is like a fake Kim. So they'll say, "Oh, we'll have you talk to Kim." That's why when people say they've talked to Kim, right, and they haven't,
yeah,
I can tell because the way they describe her. So Kim today, oh man, these are great. You guys are gonna love this. I just did a live broadcast on YouTube on this, but I didn't put these questions out because I just couldn't read the teleprompter at the time. But Kim was not pleased that because what this woman said, the gatekeeper said that they were already working with Kim on that level, right? And Kim's like, that's a lie. There's none of them are working with me, right? Now think about it. We were this close. All we had to do is get to them to do the right thing. So apparently Jesper, or the King Uriel, or not King Uriel, right? His Majesty, right? Is running the Chinese elders, and we're not sure. Like Kim says, it's the Chinese elders who are running the tables, and so. But my contact said no, it's not them. But he's never seen them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, so Kim starts going off. She goes, "Oh, that's me." Now it takes about 5 minutes, and the whole world could have been free today if they would have just put the information in the system and they actually had a genuine desire to help humanity. They could have put the numbers in the system right? The account that Kim would have given them while they're at a terminal, they would have immediately been able to confirm, oh my gosh, this is the one who holds all of the heritage accounts, every single historical asset. I heard her say it yesterday, everything. So every ledger, every back ledger that they're bringing things off of, if it isn't taken from the master ledger, which is in the trust, it is not moved anywhere because there's nothing. They're just writing things down and making the illusion that they're moving something. So the real historical assets, and by the way, that includes you, your birth certificate, your name, your rights, all the rights to you are in there too. So we ought to all have a vested interest in that. So every one of those people that sold their soul to the devil, guess what? It's in the trust. You can get it back if you would just work with us, right? So basically, she went into these questions, and they were like to challenge, like So she's like, here's a test from the people I'm supposedly working with. She's like, I have a scar that's 40 stitches. She's like, what was the cause and when, right? And then she says, what mountain was I on when M killed? That's Marduk was killed, right?
Ah,
She said, now that's some pretty specific stuff, right? She goes, what was the exact date the 5-year extension was granted to the Dragon Order by M before he died, and the exact date I took over? And she said, what did the Dragon Order, what was the date the Dragon Order Covenant expired? When did M's dad die? Who took over? What is the person's name? See, it's like, whoa. And then she said, if they're dealing with me, in what location was I when I opened the last bunker door, and when was it? And she goes, here's a hint. It was this year. Then she said, here's another one. What was the last location the Dragon Order attempted to open a bunker? What was the location of the last quantum financial system, alleged, and date of attempted launch before she took it down in 12 minutes? So she said every one of those things they would know if they are the top of the world. Mm-hmm. And if they are working with Kim, they would know those things. But they don't. And even if they do, they ought to know this is the real Kim, not whoever the person is who pretended to be there. So all those things, that's she, and I know she can prove every one of them. She's given me to the minute that I've shared with agencies and military ops while they were taking place. The minute they started hacking, she gave me notice, and I told them right away. And they were like, how do you know that? So that's the reality. I have never seen, and not only that, but I have confirmed this with I've confirmed this with governments that Kim is the one. I've confirmed this with treasuries. Kim is the one. I've confirmed this with agents who actually are familiar with the unknown country, how it works, and that the ledgers were closed. The whole back ledger was closed in 2007. Everything Kim has said has been true. And these characters in the middle, these cock-blocking gatekeepers that are there, in the middle, they stop humanity from being free because Kim is 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrial Eve. And you know what that means? That means she touches every single human being on the planet. She's related to all of us. And if they let her go free, if they let her out of this, if they acknowledge her sovereignty, you know what that means? We are all free too. So all you characters who are in these positions to continue to block, you are keeping yourself a slave, knuckleheads. You're serving so you can be a slave. To what? To people that she had the power all by herself to take out. The people they worship as gods, Kim eliminated them by herself. It's a joke. So I'm not actually mad though. I just wanted to, I had to put that, certain emphasis on it, so that so people get the point, right? So So, anyways, yeah, that's kind of what's going on now. So, in that, it was a very frustrating day, in that moment for Kim, right? So, I'm gonna read what this last part that was my response. So Kim got very bummed out. She's like, just for a moment, like she doesn't really stay that way, but she's like, I don't even know why I bother sometimes, honestly, right? Like, why do I even waste my time with these guys, right?
Right.
And so this was my response because, and by the way, Kim needs no reminder of this, but I just, you know, Kim's one of these people that's she's just so tough and she's so isolated that I don't think people even think of, what it's like to be in these situations, right? Because when you're going through this, like, you know, you're out in public the way Dan is and the way I am, right? And Kim's trying to save the world. And these people, I know a lot of people are going through stuff because I get a lot of desperate emails, but no one ever asks, like, what's your financial situation, right? No one asks that. No, no one even considers what is going on, right? With your family, right? Like how your family. I mean, not in Dan's case, but I mean, like many of our families have been torn apart. I mean, torn apart because of this, right? Because the way they've just taken money from us, taken money from our friends, block transfers, run smear campaigns on us. But with that, with somebody like Kim, like she's so badass, you don't think to really consider, right? But anyway, so she said that, and I kind of could feel her. So this was my response to her. So she didn't know even why she tried, and she was specifically talking about trying to work with this old order. So my response was because 16,000 kids die every single day from hunger, while these individuals block technology to enslave all of us, and the technology can grow food in the desert enough to change the whole world. Just to start, because you're the rightful heir to the throne, and you're the first person to make that mean something, because they are basic and average, and it's disgusting that they have any power or positions of power over us. Because when people are divided, drugged, abused, and lied to, or when people are not divided, drugged, abused, and lied to, they're amazing, powerful creators that deserve the chance to know that about themselves. Because at some point, it's reasonable to expect the bad guys to want to do the right thing. And having hope that they will, and taking the time to include someone like me and the other individual we work with is what makes you a great leader and just a good person, despite their efforts to fracture and destroy your natural connection to all of us. Because someone has got to be better and move with more urgency, taking the time to give everyone a chance to do the right thing. Because all of it would have taken was for them to follow their own laws, and we could have changed the world in an afternoon today. Because you are connected to all of us and responsible for all of humanity, even the bad ones. And I just told her, so I appreciate it. Don't get too down about it. But I just thought that was important. It felt important to me, and I just wanted to share it
Right.
with all of you
Thank you.
because so that's where we're at.
Right.
So I'm on a
Let
mission.
me ask you a question about this table group. I don't know what else to call them. I think I point out to you that the John Wick's film, right, the last film with John Wick's 3, there was the high table that everyone was under, and then there was the one that sat above the high table. And I thought, oh, we're going to go see Kim. And it turned out to go out and walk out into the desert, and then there was some sheik out there in tents, right?
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's a little disappointing, but I would say, oh, there's Marduk. Right? That would be, along those lines. But it just conceptually, that high table thing was brought out. So now you're dealing with the group that says they're the high table. How do we know they are the high table, and knowing that they are the ones that are actually in, at that position, and it's just not a group out there that's, assuming they are?
Well, the gentleman that contacted me, I cut through these guys pretty quick. Usually, I can tell right away, like, they're going to have some half-baked story or whatever. And he wasn't like that. He was genuine and sincere, and and very open to correction. And he sat there with Kim and I for an hour on the call, and he was like, "Wow, yes, it all made sense to him. He got it. He believed it." And then, to his credit, I unloaded all these questions. I said, "Go ask your gatekeeper this. This is from Kim." I said, because I'm like, look, she's not happy about that. That they're claiming to be working with her, right? And to his credit, he gave her all those questions, and he and I talked about it. And he's a relentless individual. I mean, really, pursuing the truth, and wants to liberate humanity, and wants to be free himself. And he said, and the last thing he told me, he said, "I will not stand down." And like he was just, and then you could feel the confidence he had, and I appreciated that. Now, because he was going to make sure that they explained themselves, like. Now, what he told me, now he was very much a believer. When he called me, he said, they're benevolent. He said, they're good. Now, so I put out a challenge right before your show, and I'll tell you, anybody out there who doesn't know or does know, go to the Speak Project and pull the clip. I just did a live cut, and I put out a challenge to the tables. If they are benevolent, if they have a chance to change the world right now. All they have to do is abide by their own laws. Now, according to their own laws, if they just to all of our laws, if they just went in and checked the system, they are subject to the one at the top of the order, and it's not them. Because there's always been a seat, just like you said in John Wick, above the tables. Now, Kim put the questions out there directly to them. Who is the one who replaced your previous leader? Now, what I was hoping was that they were like the watchers, right? So if you're the watchers, you'd have to be unbiased, right? Your job is just to watch. Historian. Right, like you can't judge. Like if you're good or bad, like their job would just go, oh, it doesn't matter. You're the ones that are in control, and the humans agreed to this contract. I thought maybe it was like that. I was hoping, because if that was true, then Kim has been acknowledged as the rightful heir to the throne, right? So it's her job as the sole sovereign on the planet to disperse these assets back to their place of origin and back to the people, right? And she set up the structure to do that. Now, according to their order, to the laws of the order, the rules of the order, they have to acknowledge that, because the M1, it's not an M1, but that position of the sole sovereign has rule and dominion over them. Now, the previous dictator would have had him killed for not following his orders. There wasn't even a question. Because Kim is merciful and kind, and she's connected to her own humanity, these fools live on in positions where they can manipulate and stop, kids from eating and people from having homes, and, cures to diseases coming out and all types of things, because they're trying to eliminate us.
When they don't follow the rules anymore, right? Couldn't she just decide to say, well, let's put them in a re-education center, right? And say, okay, we're under a new program here. We're going to do things differently. So have the same, hitmen, so to speak, right? Instead of doing the hit, eye for an eye and all that, but literally pick them up, take them to the island, right, whatever the island is, and say, okay, this is the re-education. This is what we're doing now. This is the new plan, and then send them back.
I mean, I guess maybe it would take, but you got to think, like this all takes resources. So if you have every organization that has the resources to do that, right, and they're not doing it because everybody at the bottom is following orders, or trying to keep their job, right, and living week to week, everybody in the middle is so happy to be in the middle, right? Because it's the top of the world to them, right? So they'll do
Right.
whatever you ask to get ahead. Then the ones above them, they are guilty of crimes that they don't want anybody to know.
Right.
So they're still under control of, I guess, whatever layers above them, of
They're
either
imprisoned
good
by the
or evil.
system. They're under control
Right.
of the
They're
system itself. So
right. So until that is unearthed, or now, and there's two ways to do this. There's the way where it gets, and I don't see how else to do this. So I'm just listing these two ways. Either the people take a stand and take them out, like they did in France during the Revolution, right? Let them eat cake,
right.
right, and just took them out, which I do think that is potentially something that could happen. And I'll be honest, I don't want that to happen. I don't because it's going to be fathers and mothers and kids of regular people are going to get killed. And yes, we'll get our freedom. And you know what? There's there is things worth dying for, but you know what? Who you are as a person is worth living for. Being you just all by yourself, your amazing children, your family, all the potential you have, that is worth living for. So when you give your life to something or life for something, it's not about dying for it, it's about living for it. So humans deserve the chance to live, to really live, to see who they are. So all of those people there, or at least most of them, if they're shells of people, I would say if they're soulless beings, I mean, I don't know what the ethics are on that, but I know that Kim is very ethical, right? She can do no harm. Now, I don't know if that counts to a being that's just, a machine. I don't know.
Well, obviously there was yeah, part of that. I just want to point out that last encounter with Marduk, there was harm committed against him and the others sitting there.
So
So
that was self-defense.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
still harm. I was just pointing out that it's not all about pacifism, and you never could lift a finger against anything, even to save your own life, kind of thing. So I think,
Oh no, no, that's very true. And my argument has been the same thing to Kim. I said, Kim, they're attacking every single person on the planet every day. They're lying to us in the media. They're the water, the food, and the air. All the time. We can all agree. Like, don't you? Most of us agree. I mean, maybe there's a tiny, tiny percentage who wants to die, but I think most people want to live, right?
right.
Like, don't you want to see what you can do? I mean, wouldn't you love to be in your 80s and like fit and healthy and thriving? In your 90s and be 100, and all of a sudden you realize you can live to be, 500 years old, and the whole time you'd have the vitality you had in your, 30s and 40s. I mean, like, wouldn't you? Who wouldn't want that? Like, the only reason why we wouldn't want it is because we didn't even know that was possible. But if you knew it was possible, right, and you saw the amazing things you could do with a life, I mean, every single life has unlimited potential when you look at it that way,
Yeah. Well, I think they are the high table that we're talking about. They're part of that system, right? So they're just going to follow their own patterns, their own habits. So part of becoming free, even if they have the ideas to help humanity, they have to break with their programming. What they've been
Right.
known that what they normally do, and look at things differently. And so they should be able to, if no bank can refuse them, then Monday, have funds move.
Well, you know, and I agree. I'm like, so I put out a challenge to him today. I said, if you're benevolent, prove it. Prove you're benevolent, because Kim has already built an entire system to bypass you, and I know how close that is. I know how. So she doesn't even need you. She doesn't even need you, but she still opened the door to give you a chance to do the right thing. After all this horrible stuff, still give him a chance, because it would just be easier this way. You know.
Right. We're
So
all humanity is standing up and taking our sovereignty and rising. All right. So everyone can participate and join in and move forward and move us faster.
Now, you know what though? Here's the thing about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really true, right? I don't know because I don't know if you know who saw this chapter or this. I mean, there's a. I just got a chapter, but it's a book out about the um, what is it called? Dan, the
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove. Now, after reading that, right now, I have been experiencing interactions with all types of people who've gone through this exact training. So it has to be in the millions of people that have been affected by this. Now, these are people that are completely fractured. Now, when they're fractured, you compartmentalize yourself. So you have an alter ego that you present most of the time that's kind and loving and and wonderful, right?
Right.
Then there's other parts of you that can get triggered by almost anything, right? And what they do is they always reintroduce new trauma to you. So by reintroducing new trauma, they can trigger another side of you. Now, in some cases, like Lolly, who we interviewed, she said she was trained to kill. So when she thinks of feeling like she's in danger, she will she knows that's a trigger, but she won't try to hurt you. She'll kill you, right? She'll put your nose back into your brain. So imagine you've got a whole bunch of people like that around, and you never know until they're suddenly triggered. And then the other thing is with Lolly in particular, right? Her alter ego is so friendly and loving, and she's trained to know how to disarm you and get close. And I mean, I called her out on it directly. I said, well, so you could get close enough to me and be part of my group, and I could you a trusted friend, and nobody would know you to be anything but that. And then they trigger you and instruct you to kill me, and I'm dead, right? And no one would even know it was her because no one would ever suspect her, but she got triggered, and that's something that is, you know, that's why they're so brutal to their children,
Right.
because they fracture them into compartments when they're just from a fetus to like 3 years old, and then they can't remember.
Well, me saying that it's everybody, I'm being very general. There's also people that are going to have to, let's say, pay for justice to be served upon them for things that they've done, even if they've turned. Right, it will be better karma wise for for them, in moving forward. But it doesn't mean that that everyone gets off scot free just because they turn. But at least this changes the energy faster, and
Yeah.
and will be better for everybody, including them.
Well, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So it's
So
definitely
yeah, I'm being a little general, but yeah, everybody. But obviously, there's going to be some changes that will take place at the high table. Some people may want to stay at the table, and some may not work anymore moving forward.
yeah. Well, there's some dangerous situations out there too that could just, you know, yeah, you have somebody who's definitely part of, these characters, right? They're they're trained. A lot of our politicians are trained, not not necessarily an MK Ultra program per se, but with these mind control tactics where trauma is introduced early, then they're raised to be politicians, right? And they learn how to act devious and pretend to be something they're not, right? And there's a politician running right now who I spoke to, and who's kind of discovering who she is, right? Realizing that very possibly like she has been through this programming, and they're currently trying to trigger her right now to do things. And I pointed it out to her. I'm like she has no, like, her mother hated her since birth. Her mother was never, there's no baby pictures of her. Her mother was never pregnant, right? Like she was just created, and then
Yeah.
her father abused her. I mean, all these things. It's kind of like, and then she talked about how she got raped and then had the baby of the rapist, and she was put through some just horrible situations, and now they're triggering her and attacking her and doing all these things because she's running for office.
Wow.
And it's too bad because, you know, at the core you can tell like the altar that she shows is very sweet, and she's very much about, you know, the constitutional, um, you know, about the Constitution. She's a constitutionalist, right? And she's also a Q supporter, right? So she's like, look, it's not conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy reality, you know. So she's got a lot of great things to say. The problem is, you know, because we were looking at like supporting candidates like the, you know, in general, right, who are running against people like Ilhan Omar or, you know, Rashida Tlaib or, you know, any of these characters that are part of this, you know, Alexander Cortez, and but the problem is, it's like, well, you take one out, right, who's controlled, and then you put another one in,
Right.
who's, you know, a trigger away from doing the same thing. It's like we can't do that. So it's going to take people who know they're not programmed, people who have normal emotional responses to things, right? Who don't look at things tactically as ways to put themselves in position, but they genuinely, you know, are made from a place of love, right? And everything they're about. I mean, because most people really are that way, right?
Yeah.
Everything you do, good or bad, usually comes from a place of love on some level, right?
Right.
Like, so
Well, I think that uh, these people need to be replaced. So I had this concept when I was a young guy, 20 something, to as a political like platform, and I called it Vote New, and it meant you had to vote for. The idea was to replace everybody in government at one time on one election, or over like 2 or 3 election cycles, right? And you would the criteria would be never vote for someone who's ever been in office, never vote for anyone that's ever been an attorney or lawyer, and never vote for anyone that's ever been in the media or unions. So you keep completely move these people out of the way, and you vote for butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, and computer repairmen. Anyone that's in a normal type of position in the world, doing a normal type of job and has some business experience, business owners, people that, maybe out of the military, but it would all be new people coming in to basically clear out all of it. I know there's good people in government, but it's not about that. It's about draining the swamp. And that's the concept I have. I spoke with a lot of people about it over the years, but I still think it's a very valid way to go about things. Have this criteria on who to vote for. And again, attorneys are the top of the list. I always like that joke. What happens if you have 1,000 attorneys at the bottom of the what do you call it when you have 1,000 attorneys at the bottom of the ocean? You
what?
call it a good start.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, the problem is this, right? This is why there has to be an absolute change in all functioning aspects of our society, right? Because one, your politicians, you would never even know. You would never even know these things about them, because look at Hillary Clinton, and if you talk to any, you know, plain Jane, average Joe kind of, you know, Democrat, they don't. All they know is the narrative that's been reported to them on the news, right? Remember, Walter Cronkite used to end his broadcast by saying, "And that's the way it is," right?
Yeah, yeah.
And now we would like to believe that, right? That's the way it is, right? And I would even like to believe that, you know, in that time there was some integrity in the news, but there is no integrity in the news. It's especially now, it's completely biased and coming unhinged. So there has to be enough financial backing for organizations like the Speak Project, right? Or um, or where we go one, we go all with yours, and things like that are like, look, we're not bound by any sponsors, we're not bound by products we sell or advertisements. What we were doing is we're giving you the truth because it's essential that people know the truth to make sound decisions. It's just the way it is. If you're dating somebody and they never tell you that, like, oh, by the way, I'm a serial killer, like, which they probably wouldn't, right? Like, do you really know them? So how would you know what your candidates are and what not to vote for? You don't know it. You don't know it. The average voter is not informed. They're too busy working week to week, taking care of their family, and trying to connect with themselves to really pay attention to the news. It's only insane people like us who've given up everything and like are so about this that we can't put it down. We're so, we can't walk away, that really know. So you have to make sure that every aspect of society reflects, a culture that values the truth, that values honor and integrity, that values, the execution of the actual laws on everyone equally. They just took this guy and they sentenced him. He got convicted in New Jersey for using the exact same pedophile language. That's all they had on him. The exact same pedophile language to make arrangements, to do whatever that Tony Podesta was using. But Tony Podesta isn't arrested. How does it apply to that guy and not Tony Podesta? There's plenty of evidence on Tony Podesta.
Right. And I think it does apply, and I think it's going to apply, but it's all in this one plan to sweep through the entire thing at one time, and he will be one of the ones that goes down first. And I think we'll see this. I think this month is the just the beginning. Next month we see a lot of people are going to be going down on this, and we'll probably see Hillary and Bill go down on it as well. In this next month.
Well,
as the plan unfolds.
Okay, and that's great. I'm glad that in the the silver sneakers era of their life, we finally got to them.
Right.
Think of all the kids that have been destroyed because these people were left alone, and that's the part to me.
It's industrialized, right? The whole human trafficking, child trafficking is all industrialized. It's not a few hundred people, a few thousand people, tens of thousands of people, or hundreds of thousands. It's millions of people every year are scooped up by this, and whatever product they are, for these people, it's industrialized. It's massive worldwide. So
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point. And you know what, actually, and this is the difference. We have to redefine what it means to make a decision in the best interest of humanity. Because what they've done is they've tricked us to think that it's smarter, right, to eliminate billions of people because people are the problem, right? And
right.
So that's what they say, right? Now, Kim said this on the phone yesterday, and I meant to mention it. She said you could have 100 billion people on the planet and there would still be plenty of room. So imagine the way they look at it, right? We're overpopulating and they're threading these lies and nonsense, right? And then they're crowding everyone into cities to do everything, right? To force us to. So this is the forced migration they've created, right? They told everyone, oh, it'll be healthier in the city because you'll walk more, right? Things like that. These are all things that, just for years, this has been going on, this kind of stuff. And it's all based around, their version of what's best for humanity, right? That's like, us making decisions about frogs, right? Well, I'll make decisions for all the frogs, right? Like, well, I don't know what it's like to be a frog. I don't know what they need, for me to make that decision, right? That's how they look at us. They're making the decision for what's best, and not for us as people the way we see ourselves, as thriving individuals with a soul that are creators, right? That have aspirations and dreams and love and an incredible story to tell, but as something to feed their machine. So right. Humanitarian efforts from them have been exactly that. That's why the UN can justify population control under a humanitarian effort. How is it humanitarian, Bill Gates, to poison people against their knowledge, without informed consent, without them realizing it? How is that legal? It's not. According to our Constitution, by the way, it's not legal. You can't do that. So our Constitution is becoming,
Well, I think
whittled down all the time.
Yeah, I think you're right that humanitarian is really a bad word, and that I understand it's part of that industrialization of this process of this machine, right? This machine is of the bureaucracy, the deep state, this entrenched, worldwide government, and it is a worldwide government. It's just that it's not known to the people, right? And it's the closest thing we had to seeing it would be Europe and the EU being controlled by these bureaucrats. No one who votes any of these people into power. They are just in control. And so that's the closest thing we could see of something that would be where they were trying to all these countries and then homogenize into culture of differences in people, right? With a big clash, and destruction, and then they'd rebuild it into this thing, but eliminating freedom altogether.
Well, and it's absolutely true, right? So one of the things that it's become almost a controversial thing to talk about because we associate it with limiting our freedoms, right? But there are things that represent universal values to all humans, right? And that's why it's like, the Declaration of Independence, right? It says that we hold these truths, or is that the Constitution, one of them, says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, now the way it's supposed to read, all men are created free and independent and have the rights, have these unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And then, really, it's as long as we don't do harm unto others, right? So they are literally taking and limiting our life. So they violate that one. They have taken our liberty by limiting our choices so much, by modifying the way we think, what we think about, what words mean. So they've taken our liberty, and in this, what they've given us instead is entertainment, right? Like the gladiators killing each other during, in the Roman Empire, to prevent people from realizing what was happening, to keep us entertained.
Right.
And the reality is, the more you entertain someone, if all you think about is entertainment, right? And we used to call that vegging out, right? Oh, I'm just vegging out, just watching TV, doing nothing. What happens? You become a vegetable. You're not contributing any new ideas. You're not creating anything. You're not building anything. You're not taking care of your body or your health. You're too busy vegging out, being entertained, and allowing them to dictate to you what to do and what not to do. Right? So then our values become, oh, technology is so wonderful. We need to be connected to everything. We need to integrate microchips into our brains, and that way we can I don't even have to answer my phone, right? So they create smartphones that have glitches and naturally get overloaded with data, and they start to break down when a smartphone like the iPhone 4 could still be working, right? But now they've made it so that model is obsolete. You can't even update it, right? So they do things like that so that we start to value other things because we get so used to modern conveniences that we stop creating better ways to think and better ways to do things. So they are in violation of every single one of our constitutional rights, and the Constitution is the law of the land. And the problem is because they raise the sea level so that we're in the sea.
Right.
What a joke.
Yeah, the high point is on the top of the mountains.
Yeah, right.
High tide, the top of Mount Everest.
Right. So,
Well,
anyways, high tide top of Mount Everest.
well, that's what they did.
No,
They
yeah,
go.
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
That's what the Navy goes up and they do an expedition to the top of the mountain, and then they plant the flag and say, "We have high tide here." So that everything below that is obviously underwater and part of the sea.
Well, I don't know if you read this article about you know the Navy SEAL team in Iraq were training an ISIS sniper who was snuck back to assassinate the president, right?
No, I did
And
not.
yeah, and then allegedly the Navy had control. Now this would make sense, right? Because we are under admiralty law, right? That the Navy had control of the Pentagon. This is what the article said. And so Putin moved ships in place to, wage war, I guess, was what I understood. And President Trump contacted him and let him know that the Army has control of the Pentagon now, right?
Interesting.
So it's no longer an issue. Now I thought that was fascinating because all that makes sense when you understand that the law of the seas they've brought onto the land. So you've got to
Ah,
restore the law of the land. Now the law of the land here is the Constitution.
right,
So
right, exactly. Well, that's good. And that's I did not hear that, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that it's the Navy uh, that was in control of the Pentagon. I mean, I've heard some of those things in the past, right? Uh,
yeah,
and that the I like the secret space program was under really the Navy, right? Or they were the first ones that were into control of this part, right? You wouldn't think it'd be the Air Force, right?
yeah,
But really, it's the Navy.
yep, makes sense. So, and that's why I just put out a video. I'm asking everybody here and anybody in the future, please go to the Speak Project, pick up that little. I mean, it's just like 5 minutes long. Put it out everywhere. Get their attention, please. I mean,
Is that the
like,
one where you're wearing a suit?
no, no. Actually, I did that when my kids were asleep, so I had to talk a little soft. But no, I'm trying to. I'm. We were talking about like we've been trying to put out just a more quality broadcast, but we
Yeah,
had
I
things.
saw one of the thumbnails on the videos that came up Speak Project. I saw you standing there with the suit. I said, "Oh, you're getting spiffy."
Yeah, I'm trying. I've got like 12 suits, like really nice suits too. But I never wear them anymore. So yeah, got to put them on
Yeah.
once in a while.
Well, the funny thing is, it was like one of those things. I first left from California to head to out 5 years ago. Came to Philippines, and then took all this different track on my life. Right, started really then, and I left behind all my suits, and I had this urge. I brought my silk shirts with the elephants on for what I met with M1 in Laos, right? But and that was I listened to myself about that, but I had all these suits also, so I was having a very big problem packing that day because I wanted to bring all these suits. And since then, I haven't had suits, and I have wonderful suits that still my daughter's holding them for me. But I've got I've got a tuxedo, really great tuxedo. It was James Bond's tuxedo. Uh, it was meant to be for rentals, right? So you could rent it, but they made 50 of them and sent them out, see if people wanted to get them for renting. And I guess it didn't take off, but I said, "Can I buy it?" So I bought it, and yeah, so I ended up having James Bond suit. It's kind of a charcoal gray. But anyway, I miss all my suits, but I haven't been wearing suits.
Yeah, I do like to wear a suit, but I really I like all my suits to be custom fit, and I have no reason to wear them, right now because I've been in the kind of this stall hold pattern. So, I guess I'll wear them for we're trying to do Speak Project kind of newscast style. So I'm trying to clean up my act a little bit, I guess, try to get people to take us a little more seriously.
Yeah, I hear ya.
But I'm wearing shorts. It's like I'm wearing only a top of a suit and I'm wearing shorts. So
Well, I do wear shorts, and they're kind of usually you call them, I guess, jib shorts or something like that. Uh, you know, or Nike shorts or something with zipper pockets, that kind of thing. You wear for exercising. But then I'll be on my broadcast. I'll have like a button shirt. Obviously it's a fashion faux pas, right? But it's
right.
that's something. But it's so hot here and things like that. So wearing long pants all the time is not something that I would do. Even socks have been sacrificed, so you should just wear footwear, which would be like flip flops, uh, that kind of thing. So
Sure.
anyway, I think we're kind of off topic a little bit here. Uh,
But no, the one I did right before your show. I mean, so I did it at 10 o'clock tonight. I mean, it's like 5 minutes long. I mean, I'm outside. You know, I was actually searching around trying to find a place where the police wouldn't harass me because I have. I mean, at all times, I have at least one cop car outside my house at all times.
oh,
Right,
you're
they're always
protected,
watching me.
man.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, right? Doesn't quite feel that way, but um, they're never like, "Hey, are you okay?" you know, they never seem to check on me. So I'm like, "What are you up to?" So, anyways,
I
but
just clicked on. I was just looking on Speak Project. I've got one that's 25 minutes long.
oh, maybe it was longer than I thought. It might be 25 minutes long. I
Yeah,
mean,
an hour
nevertheless,
ago.
it should
Yep.
it should say yeah, it should say speak update, man. Wow, you can tell my lack of consciousness of what I'm speaking. God, I had no idea it was 25 minutes long. Good evening, everybody. This is Tank from the Speak Project. Hopefully, you can hear me, and I guess we'll find out later.
You
But
hear, I
I'm always
hear
trying to get
just
this
well.
right. But I wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update about what's actually taking place, and it's kind of heavy. The reality is we are on the verge of bringing in money for human empowerment projects, or referred to previously as humanitarian projects. And the whole idea is that there's all of these funds, that there was contracts set up so that people like the Federal Reserve and the various dragon families, and so with all these different things, what they did is they were holding the world hostage, and they were allowed to do a lot of things to us, such as they were allowed to create contracts that would limit our ability, or they would take ownership of our homes, of ourselves, and all of those contracts and all of those things had expired, including the Federal Reserve as of 2014. But in 2012 is when there was the biggest change, because that's when humanity actually took back the quantum system. The quantum system is a mapping system that extends out to look at everything there is on the planet. Okay, so everything there is registered to this trust. Now, because it's registered to the trust, all of the assets on the planet technically belong inside of the trust. So that's why we are not able to actually own our homes, really own our cars, or even our own identities. That's why our birth certificates are actually registered to the trust. So now imagine, this is the reality. In 2012, the previous, aristocracy, mediocre elite, right? They had this opportunity to bring the whole world under one world government. Now, in 2012, their contract expired. So they were given a 5-year extension by the leader at that time of that whole upper order, the top of the top, so to speak, that we refer to as M. Some people refer to this position as the M1. Now, the M1 is actually a level where assets like gold or silver can be turned into cash, right? So at this very elite level, they were able to control everything. They were able to control everything we had because they had control of the money. So they were given a 5-year extension. That extension expired in 2017. Now, because that expired in 2017, from that point on, the trust has been turned back into distribution mode. So Kimberly Ann Gogan, she was the one who actually matched the profile. So she was identified as having 99.8% of the original mitochondrial DNA back in a long time ago, but in 2012 she was brought on. Now her DNA is actually what opens the quantum system. Now, because her DNA opens quantum system, no one else can. So it doesn't matter what paperwork people have to say, oh, they're the head of the Rodriguez Trust or the Alpha Omega Trust or the Dragon Family Trust or any of the other heritage accounts, because every single one of those heritage accounts is registered within the overall umbrella of the trust. Now, the problem we're having is the previous trustees were all of the scariest people that you can imagine. The Clintons, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bilderbergers, the Peseurs, all of these different, kind of the evil empire, they were the previous trustees. And when the current trustee took the place, she let all of them go. So they no longer have any power whatsoever to actually bring money from the off-ledger system, which now the off-ledger system is the trust. And this is how the rich elite would, avoid paying taxes. They would take all this money, then they would hide it in accounts that nobody could see. The banks couldn't see. Whenever they wanted to buy something like a country, right, they would just pull the money in on ledger, and they would take it from an asset to a cash base, and there would be an allocation number that would be released from the trust. Now, the trust is registered in every single treasury system, every government system, every intelligence system as the unknown country. Now, I believe that actually means the UN known country. Okay, that's what it, am I guessing, because they love these kind of symbols and words. Now, the unknown country, anybody who's ever done a contract job, who's been after the military, they've done private military, private contract work. What they've done is they've had this, little black book where they entered a log of an account number and a dollar amount they were going to be paid for that job. Now, anybody who's ever done contract work knows exactly what I mean. Now, we've actually had this confirmed recently directly from those who have those exact kind of black books. And what they would do is they would take this money and it would be put in the back ledger or in the unknown country. Now, the unknown country is technically, or the Manna World Holding Trust is what Kim changed the name to. The unknown country is technically the central bank of all central banks. So everything else, the entire financial system is housed within this, okay? Now, right now, it is so simple to change the entire world if we could just get those who are in positions of authority to do their job and cooperate with us. Now, very recently, what happened is I spoke to a group and they told me basically that they were the top of the world. And I've talked to many people like that who claim this, but now this group is actually known as the International Federally Regulated Tables, right? And for short, they just call themselves the Tables. Now, these are supposed to be the top of the world. And what they are responsible for is to take money from the off ledger or the back ledger, which is really the entire back ledger is housed within the Manna World Holding Trust, also known as the unknown country. So they were one of the groups that could take the money from the off ledger and bring it on ledger. Now, they approached us and we were talking, and they were basically saying, we want to work with you to see if we can bring this money in. And they were approaching us like as if Kim was a private entity. But the reality is they deal with countries, right? They're the ones that bring money in for countries. Now, Kimberly Ann Gogan, the actual trustee, she's also the comptroller, the custodian, and the trustee. I think she has another position as well. But having all those positions, that's never been done before. No one's ever had all those positions. So not only is she powerful in her own right, but she is the most powerful. I mean, no one's ever had as much. Now, in this, the only thing blocking her are the previous, the previous M1 called the slave masters. Because he considered all of the, the Bilderbergers and Rothschilds and Rockefellers, he considered them all slaves. They were nothing. Their job was to go out and, take ownership of the assets and give it to him. So that's what a slave would do, right? Whatever the master says. So on this level with this group, the tables, they do mega trades, master trades, and they've repeated this same system in the bullet trade platforms, which are now, they've all ceased trading. But on this mega trade platform, they told us, basically that if the numbers matched up for Kim's codes with their codes, we could bring money down from the back ledger, and they would have to match. So Kim immediately corrected them and said, well, they won't match because all of the old codes, now these are all the old code books that you see, in like movies and stuff, and like what you'll see with like Neil Keenan and
various other characters that are all members kind of the deep state, right? The secret society. And in this, they have these different books, these ledger books, and they had codes in them. Now, these codes, Kim has every code that was ever issued all throughout history. So if they wanted to match the code, what we figured is, well, we could give you the code. If you know the account, you say the Alpha Bank account, Kim will give you the code. If you say the Dragon Family Trust, the White Spirit Boy Trust, she has all of those codes. Now, nobody's making that claim, but she has all the codes, all of them. Now, but now they're all deactivated though. None of them work. So none of those codes work, but her codes are made in real time. And I have been with her on the phone using these codes. I have used codes to bring in millions of dollars that my bankers have confirmed when it arrived, and then they siphon it off. Now they've siphoned off just from our little world over 200, more like $300 million in the past year and a half that we've brought in 4 projects, and they've taken $105 billion that was allocated for disaster relief in Paradise, California, and also for Hurricane Michael. Because right now, this whole world would be a different place if that money had just come on ledger. Because the actual humanitarian funds would have gone to people that needed it. But they're so terrified of people actually having money to go and make a difference that they're blocking it, right? So here's the challenge. Now, we were very excited to talk to this group thinking, because this is what should happen, by the way. And so this message is for all of the deep states, the order, the Illuminati, all of you out there who are still on the fence. If there's any of you who has the courage or the integrity to actually be part of humanity, we could have changed the entire world in the past 3 days. All that had to happen was there was a gatekeeper, and whose name I'm not going to mention, but there's a gatekeeper. She actually calls herself the gatekeeper, and she makes it a very prominent position, which we would call it something else usually, right? She's the one blocking us from actually getting to their system. And what she said was, well, we will not deal, she told the individual we were speaking to, who was a member of the tables, to stand down. Don't deal with them, right? Now, don't deal with them because they are, and what she claimed was they were already talking to Kim, or people on that level were already speaking to Kim. Now, that's the Pentagon level, the government level. But in reality, nobody from the tables has come forward to speak to Kim. Now, somebody in that group has the ability to bring this down. Now, here's what Kim just told me, that the individual who used to be her security, who faked, he said a body double actually, right? This guy, his name is Jesper something, right? So this individual ended up becoming, she appointed him because she trusted him because it was her security. She appointed him as a sovereign being over an island that became a country, the Kingdom of Manna. Now, she's the Manna World Holding Trust. She appointed a sovereign king over the Kingdom of Manna, but it only had sovereignty because she acknowledged it. And they, in turn, they acknowledged her sovereignty and her authority to do it as the sole sovereign on the planet. Now, what happened was she was working on a brand new financial system that she had a group of programmers who were helping her build. And she had built this amazing financial system. Then she found out that that amazing financial system was actually being built by her programmers / hackers. And they were secretly doing it from a ranch in Paraguay for the Bush family, the Bush Ranch. So with that in mind, her security, come to find out, wasn't even the same guy. His real name wasn't even Jesper. It was really Jesper's henchman, I guess, Peter something. So he was Peter. Now, what happened is he ended up changing his name, the king here of the kingdom, the fake Kingdom of Manna. So what Kim did was she dissolved the Kingdom of Manna. So the Kingdom of Manna has no power. It's a fictional entity. It does not even exist anymore. There's no paperwork on it. There's nothing about it that is real. All of the authority that they had immediately evaporated when they violated the treaty with Kim, because their job was to protect her, and they didn't. And because of that, Kim dissolved them immediately. In fact, in 2017, Kim issued a cease and desist order against them. They no longer represent Manna. They no longer represent her. Now, this is very important because they have now since gone out claiming many things. 3 things they claim. Sometimes they'll claim they're working with Kim. And they actually have a body double a person who is a fake version of Kim, who they'll introduce as Kim, so that they can, pretend to get assets and try to take over the world. They've gone out and they've seduced 180 tribes, I believe. And we know for a fact this is true because we've got the actual emails of where they told certain people that Kim had gone rogue and that she was on the other side and the Universal Council had released her. These are all lies that they're telling, and they're deceiving the world. Now, the problem is I've been getting contacted by Russia, by China, by various governments around the world that are all convinced that these guys are the Manna World Holding Trust and that they are affiliated with Kim. But they're not affiliated with Kim at all. Kim has not spoken to them, not one word, since November of 2017. So they are falsely representing Kim. So Kim and I talked today at length, and she is going to actually write up a new cease and desist order. That is going to be sent out everywhere, and we need to make sure that circulates so it's very clear that they are fraudulent, because it's the biggest scam in history right now. Now, in one of the contracts I saw, they're actually requesting and insisting to bring in humanitarian projects, to bring in money for humanitarian projects, that the government pays them up front $100,000. Now, that will never happen. Manna will never request anyone to pay money up front for humanitarian projects, for humanitarian fundings in any way. The way it works is the project gets funded to the organization, and then pays 2% back to the Manna World Holding Trust in administrative fees. Now, Steve Mnuchin knows this. President Trump knows this. The Pentagon knows this. The entire government knows this because she has funded over $1 trillion to the U.S. government in the past year, much more than that, by the way. She's funded this money, and they have never paid her back, not 1 cent. Now, here's why. As soon as they pay her back, they acknowledge that she is sovereign and she's the one that gave it to them. Now, when they do that, all of humanity goes free. Because remember, she is 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrial Eve. She is symbolic and represents every human being on the planet. So in her winning, all of humanity goes free. So anybody in a government office, anybody in the deep state, anybody who wants to do something right and just karmically in any way, remember this. You cannot beat her. She's already been set up, and you've been trying to go after this one woman, and she's been beating you senseless. It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself still, because even with nothing, we're whooping your ass. So stop fighting this and come on board with humanity. And you know what? We don't even care, because we don't even know who most of you are. We don't even know what you're doing. Stop your programming. Stop all the evil BS that's going on. But how about we just start with this? Somebody in that organization, somebody in the actual tables that we were talking to, get us past the gatekeeper and let us find out who's running the organization, because we believe that it's Jesper, that's what Kim said, it's Jesper who's running that too, and got them convinced that he's the one, he's the chosen one. And they cannot accept that it's a woman at the top of the whole order. But she is. She is the one. She is the rightful heir to the throne. I'm sorry to break anybody's heart, but that's just the truth. Now, that can be proven by any intelligence agency who wants to actually go do the research and look it up and is honest. That's a problem. All these characters, they want their cut and they're terrified of the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, the Bilderbergers, all these, Warburgs and the Lees, the Gals, they have no power anymore. The only thing that gives them power is your belief and your fear of them. If you stop being afraid of them, they're powerless. They can't do anything. Stop believing they have control of you. They don't. The only reason why they have control of anyone is because we believe it. They don't have any control, and they're no better than you. And it is time for humanity to come together and recognize we have got to stand in the same space together. Now, Kim took it a step further because she was not happy that they were claiming that they were working with her. Because the tables, they are not working with Kim, for the record. The kingdom of Manna is not the Manna World Holding Trust. These organizations are totally separate. Now, the tables, they said they were already working with Kim on some level. And the woman actually told us, she had spoken to Kim, and she had never spoken to Kim. But this is probably the body devil is what we're guessing, that, his royal whatever Majesty Uriel was doing from the kingdom of Manna. right? Now, remember, this man has a title. The only reason why he has any power or recognition is because Kim gave it to him. So if Kim's the one who's able, she's the kingmaker. Now, if she can make kings, if she can make people sovereign, what power do they have if she says you're not that? You're not sovereign. You're not a king. And she's about to write a cease and desist letter. And I'll tell you, if it's possible for us to actually, for Kim to actually file a lawsuit against them for defamation of character, which she would probably never do. But in my opinion, it forces the courts to acknowledge her legally as exactly who she is. So I will tell you, that is part of the way that we have to go. All of the legal entities out there, you know you don't have a dime. Every single bank is about 600% in the red? Yeah, in the red. They're basically in the negative, is my point, right? So all these groups, all these banks, they don't have any money. Now, what they were doing is she was allowing them to go into the negative, and they were giving out credits. But now she baselined it, so it's at zero. They can't go below zero anymore. So they can't give out credit. So how much longer do you think before the banks collapse? Now, even the table said they weren't doing business with the top 12 banks, which were all the Rothschilds banks. They had banned them. So if they weren't doing business with them, right, the question is, well, who's running them? Well, it seems like it's just a smaller faction of the same group. But I'll tell you what, I will publicly apologize immediately if the tables come to the table and actually do the right thing. Because I want you to know how simple this really is. It would take 5 minutes. We would give them an account number. They would put it into their system. It would ping to Kim. Kim would respond immediately, and they would see exactly what is held in her accounts because she would give them the code to access it, and they would see immediately, there's her money. There's the money for humanity. There's all these heritage funds. All the accounts that everyone's always talking about, they are there in the trust. And the tables, if you guys are real, and because the gentleman I spoke to, he is benevolent, who's working for them. But I question if the tables are benevolent. And I say, you know what? Prove me wrong. Show me that you're actually benevolent and do the right thing. Because you know and I know we could do this week. You could do this right now. You could call us right now and take care of this, and it would be no problem. So all of the collateral accounts are held in the Manna World Holding Trust. All of the heritage accounts are held in the Manna World Holding Trust. All of the assets, the 180 bunkers / vaults, Kim is the one who has cleared them out and moved them back to their origin, the original place where they belong, right? All of that has been taken. And today, to prove who she was, she asked certain questions, put these questions out there to show that they were not working with her. She asked these questions, okay, what mountain was she on when M, she called him, we'll say M1, I think it's Marduk, right? When he died, what mountain was she on when Marduk died? Now, if they know, if they're as powerful as they say, they should know that. She also asked, where a certain scar she had was. They asked her, a couple questions. She asked a bunch of questions like that to prove, but some of them were deep. Like, what was the last bunker that she opened? What was the last time the fake quantum financial system that they claim at Hercules, what was the last time they tried to hack the trust? And it got destroyed in 12 minutes. She asked, when was the last time, what was the last bunker the Rothschilds tried to break into? And she said, what was the last bunker she opened, she went into? And she goes, here's a hint. It was this year. Now, anybody on that level, when you hear those questions, you know she's exactly who she says. And if you can't answer those questions, you are not above her. You're beneath her. And if you are beneath her or above her, either way, if you're actually advocates for humanity, then what you should be doing is doing all you can to make sure that money gets to humanity. Now, I was told the tables are benevolent. Prove it. Because right now, 16,000 kids, or an absurd number of kids, 16,000 kids are dying every single day from starvation, while we sit on technology that we could put in a desert and make enough food to feed 50,000 people. We could take one of those, feed all these kids that are dying every day. We could do this every day. We have so much, we could take away the myth of global warming. We could completely provide free energy for everyone. We would have fresh water every place in the world that we could grab right out of the ether. We can, right now, the technology that's available here now that I know about, I'm nobody. I know about it. And just in my little group and create change. Just in our little group, we have enough technology. We could change the whole world with no problem. So we could be working on that right now. If the tables are benevolent, step up and be benevolent. Do the right thing. Now, I said that as polite as I could, because the reality is the fact that you continue to allow children to die every day, every government, every single government, every military, every one of you cowards who has not stepped up to actually do something and make this happen, to make sure that we get access, who has not gone in and kicked down the door and said enough is enough. At some point, we have given you every piece of information you need to do this and do it now. And we're out here with nothing, as they've stolen our money over and over again, as they are raping and killing and kidnapping our children, as they're taking everything we have, poisoning every part of our reality, poisoning our food, our water, our air, our minds. They are poisoning the frequency we broadcast in. Now, I'm telling you, you could go in and make a difference, because they are poisoning you too. So make a difference today. That's my plea. And you know what? The tables, I'll tell you what, I promise you, I will make it just as big a deal. If you prove me wrong, I will come out on the front page of everything I do and apologize and say I was wrong. They came through. But as of now, the fact that you just blocked us over what? Because you want him to provide a KYC? Go into the system, you'll see whose passport pops up. Find out whose DNA can actually open the system. She doesn't have to prove herself to you. You have to prove yourself to her and to all of us, because this is the age of humanity. And we are going to have our place. We will have our own seat at our own table. Peace out.
Excellent.
Well,
Yeah,
there we go.
it was more than 5 minutes, but well worth it. Wow, thanks. Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was clear. It was the first time we used that app. So working on it.
Oh, you know, that's a good. What app was that?
Leela or Lele or something like that. Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, actually, and it costs money, but I'll eventually we'll use it to Lele. You know, you can actually, you can add your logo and stuff like that, which is I'm always trying to do. So that was cool.
No, that was actually well placed. Well, was it outside the shop talk? The content was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Cool. Glad. Well, all right, man. That's pretty much all I had. So.
Well, that's quite a lot. You need to. Are you going to take a rest now?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna try.
You're going to do another broadcast. It's like nonstop.
I might do another one. I'm gonna call Lisa to see. There's so many things going on. I just feel like, like I learned this from Dan Lutz. This will be in my book. If you can't draw the numbers, you have to show up every day and work twice as hard. So.
And that's it. All right. Well, we're showing up. Everyone else keeps showing up. Thanks for everything. And please pass out these links, and I'll get that link for that one. I'll put it in the video of this one below, and pass it out.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Man. Appreciate you. Have a good night. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Take it easy from the Philippines.
Take it easy.
Bye, Tui. Tui's with us in spirit, if not on the web.
Always. Yeah.